I'm going to get to the first question.
And you know, Evan, I'll tell you, I didn't even look at the questions that you sent me because I don't want it to appear rehearsed. So these questions are all new to me.
Okay, perfect. I love it. How does all of this begin for you in terms of getting into this music?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the Dickies. The Dickies was the very first band that I ever saw. I was probably 16 or 17. Me and my buddy Glenn from Upland, my old friend from 3rd grade, we went to the Whiskey. Our first show was going to be Oingo Boingo at the Whiskey, but we were in line at Montgomery Ward buying tickets, and these two girls in front of us, like a year or two older, they were actually making fun without them knowing that we were into Oingo Boingo, of Oingo Boingo. They were buying tickets for like Susie and the Banshees, I think. I forget. So we're like, you know, because, you know, it was all new. And then a couple of weeks later, we're like, fuck it, let's do it. We're going to go see the Dickies at the Whiskey. And that was it. My first introduction to music or punk rock was probably bands like The Cars or Cheap Trick, and then Blondie, and then Devo, and then Adolescence, and then the Dickies, and then so on and so on and so on.
It's interesting that you bring up Oingo Boingo because they are in the family, right? Like,
oh, hell yeah.
Okay.
I love New Wave.
Yeah. No, totally. That's the thing is you're saying that they were kind of making fun of you guys, but you were in the ballpark.
They're just girl, whatever. But we were like impressionable, and they were cute, and they're older, you know, whatever. It's all kid stuff. But man, I regret that because the Oingo Boingo had that 10-inch out from 1980. Whatever. It's funny.
Have you ever done, and I may have heard this before, but have you ever done any bands in all the time that you've been doing all this?
You mean sexually? Because yes. What? Yeah, what do you mean by done?
Well, yeah. Have you ever been like in a band? Like,
no, I've never. I'm a great skin flautist. I don't want to brag, but I also play the organ and the tromboner. Gotcha. No, I was always too busy drinking with my friends and going to gigs. I took guitar as a kid. My sister played guitar, so like in the 70s, mid 70s, I took guitar. I could play Michael Row the Boat Ashore. And I gave it up, just busy. And then I tried to take it again at Mount Sac, which is a local college. I took classical because I knew like if I could play classical, I could play anything. I just couldn't keep up. So no, to answer your question, no.
So can you play any instruments at all?
No.
Okay.
Nothing.
So how do you get started doing Dr. Strange?
Well, it's just being a fan of music. You know, like I'm older than you. Just listening to music. My family was into music. I mean, I remember whenever he was around, my dad, I'd wake up on the weekends listening to Neil Diamond. My sister is 6 years older, and she was a big fan of the Jackson 5 and the Commodores and, you know, all that stuff. So music was very integral. It was like music. The first record I ever bought was the Jackson 5 record at Thrifty Junior. It's just going on road trips. We listen to music. That's what you do. I never really had a passion for it until hearing punk rock or new wave. Devo. Devo was the first record I heard, and I went to Pioneer Junior High, which is in Upland. I know that means nothing to a lot of people, but anyway. And Mike, some cool kid, a skater, would skate at the Pipeline with Salba and all those guys. He brought a cassette player in and was listening to Devo, the first record, and I'm like, this sucked. What the fuck is this? But then later, a couple of years later, after listening to like the aforementioned Cars and Cheap Trick, I'm like, Devo kicks ass. And that was just the first time I ever cut my hair in a weird, funny way. I was 15, looking in the mirror, just grabbing my hair because then it was cool to like just and then cut it till it stuck up on top. And so Devo was a really a breakthrough band for me. And
when we talk Devo, are we talking like Girl You Want type stuff and like or is it like the Peekaboo like later like
I don't like that stuff. That's whatever. The first three. The first record, my favorite record is their second record, Duty Now for the Future. That's a great record. But the first three are the ones to get. That's
so then what compelled you and what was the process of putting out your first release? Like in the sense of like how did you know where to go? How did you know what to do? Like did they give you a DAT? Did they give you a reel to reel? Like how does all this work?
Well, yeah, it's a great question. The world has changed so much, and technology changes every 6 months to a year. But this is 35 years ago. So to find out where to go, what to do, well, to answer your first question, one day I had a list of goals. What do I want to do in my life? I was watching 2020, and they said, or whatever, Nightline, and they said people that write down their goals on a piece of paper are 75% more likely to achieve them. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to write down some goals. And I only remember two. One was put a record out, just put one record out, and to write a book. There was like three other ones I forgot. So I'm like, I want to put a record out, just one. And just by luck, I was living down the street in Cucamonga, and one of my neighbors was BJ Setlak, the singer of a really cool band from Upland. He's a couple years older called Manson Youth. And I was telling DJ, like, I want to put a record out. He's like, hey, man, I have a bunch of music, like 40 songs recorded on a 1/4-inch reel. Let's do it. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. Great, let's do it. I'll pay for everything. Boom. And my goal was just to do one. So me and DJ, we did that. We got it mastered, the whole bit. And it sold out really super fast. So I'm like, I'll do more. But to answer your other question, there was no way, you can't search the internet. Computers they existed, but not a personal computer. I mean, they had Commodore 64. The best thing out there was Pong. And you can, so I would buy, I think Goldmine magazine they're still around for over 50 years. Or I would write, you know what? I wrote to Ian from Discord, where do you get your stuff done? And he said, United Records in Tennessee. Just wrote a letter. Hey, I want to put a record out. How do I do it? Sent me an order form. They were like, this is what we need from you. All right, fill out the paper, mail it back in, and that was it. So you really had to be a detective to do, like, who does labels? Who does sleeves? Who presses the record? Who does everything? And it took weeks because you're mailing letters and they're coming back. But you don't know any different because that just is the way it was.
Well, and I was also going to say that wasn't like at all a one-stop shop in terms of you sent that. You had to find the covers. You had to, all of it.
Yes. Yeah. You had to find someone to do everything. But once again, that's just the way it was.
Well, what's also interesting is to go back to the whole Nightline thing, people that write down their goals, 70% more to achieve them. When you hit United Records up, they sent you a list. That was essentially just sending you more goals. And so they were written down. You just had to follow that.
Yeah. So I got the record out, did that. And now I'm up to 154 records. And after like 6 or 7 years, I just finished a book. It's all about Dr. Strange, me, my life, starting when as far back as I can remember.